Good day, class. Welcome to our discussion on global corporations. This shall be the final topic before taking your preliminary examinations. As mentioned by Charles Sawyer, profit is the main driver of our economic system. The businesses that open, the jobs that are available, the goods that are for us to consume, and the talent that gives us innovation and technological advancements are all driven, either wholly or partly, by profit. Nevertheless, it is important to note that a lot of negative activities and decisions have been undertaken in the name of profit as well. Under globalization, the global economy's operation is shaped and influenced by governments, global or multinational corporations, and global institutions, the very same sectors that laid the foundations of contemporary market integration. Governments, like the Philippine government, function as leading policymakers and implementers of globalization's tenets of free trade, competition, and friendlier relations among governments and other economic stakeholders. Global institutions, like the United Nations, are also partly managed and funded by governments and their representatives. These bodies serve as venue for state to discuss matters of global importance, including those that deal with how to effectively manage globalization. These include facilitating free trade through the World Trade Organization, ensuring no one is left behind through the UN and its organs, as well as funding the development and economic health of countries, which are being done through the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Meanwhile, global corporations ensure a leading role in making the cogs of capitalist globalization operate as smoothly, efficiently, and profitably as possible. They are the ones that continue to give the world with disruptive technologies that our lives that makes our lives better and let us see how the future will be. Global market integration and economic globalization cannot be achieved without the growth of global corporations. Modern day global corporations can trace their lineage to the era of colonialism, when colonizers exploited colonies as cheap sources of raw materials and, oftentimes, slave labor, or as markets for surplus goods. In the literal sense of the word, there is free trade. The colonial powers freely expropriated the finite or limited resources of colonies for their own budding industries. It was indeed a very exploitative and one-sided affair, with colonizers increasing their wealth to the detriment of colonized nations like the Philippines, whose resources were hauled away. Art Schultz, a European expert on global studies, explains that transoceanic commerce took tea, cane sugar, spices, tobacco, furs, and precious metals across the world. To conduct their trade, the English, Dutch, and Danish East India companies, as well as other prototypical global corporations, maintained networks of head offices and overseas posts or branches, while gold and silver flowed to the west from the colonies as banks started lending out money to governments across Europe and the US for their colonial export, for their colonial activities. Decolonization and the trade it brings resulted to a very important phenomena with wide-ranging consequences. The Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange refers to the exchange of ideas, diseases, food crops, and populations between the New World and the Old World following the voyage to the Americas by Christopher Columbus in 1492. The Old World, which include Europe and the entire Eastern Hemisphere, gained from the Columbian Exchange in a number of ways. It gained new staple crops such as potatoes, sweet potatoes, maize, and cassava. Less calorie-intensive foods such as tomatoes, chili peppers, cacao, peanuts, and pineapples were also introduced and are now culinary centerpieces in many Old World countries, namely Italy and Greece, and other Mediterranean countries that love tomatoes. India and Korea, which heavily use chili peppers, and Malaysia and Thailand, with chili peppers, peanuts, and pineapples in their dishes. Tobacco, another New World crop, was universally adopted. The exchange also drastically increased the availability of many Old World crops, such as sugar and coffee, which were particularly well suited for the soils of the New World. Going back, the early colonial era companies that facilitated world trade and the Columbian Exchange maintained a multinational reach through their trading posts, factories, and plantations in the colonies, thus becoming the precursors to modern day global corporations. To their credit, bold ventures of global corporations into research and development and investments in new products and services have done much to facilitate the growth of trade between countries and consequently further the spread of globalization. Global corporations engage in resource extraction, commodity production, communication, or transportation, such as Toyota Motors, Royal Dutch Shell, Boeing Company, and Google and its parent company, the Alphabet, are still among the Global 500 list of firms, proving that global corporations have changed so little through centuries. Companies have come and gone, but they still mostly operate on these highly profitable fields. Banks and financial institutions with global reach, such as HSBC and Citigroup, have also withstood the test of time, as any other corporate and financial endeavor logically needs financing, which these entities gratefully provide. Further innovations in the information technology sector have also contributed to the rise of high-tech global firms such as Apple and Samsung Electronics in recent decades. With the widening control of global corporations over the world's wealth and resources, critics understandably point out that there is a need to regulate rather than deregulate these entities or these corporations. Walden Bello, a Filipino academic and social worker, maintains that the reluctance of public authorities or the government to regulate the activity of capital in the new global economy is the reason behind capitalism's failure to swiftly reduce recession and to check the market-driven structural imbalances. This is the very reason why the world, starting with the United States of America, experienced the world's worst financial crisis, the Great Recession, in the late 2000s, since the Great Depression during the 1930s. That is why there is a steady movement pushing the corporations and their activities to be regulated. Though more regulations usually receive pushbacks from these companies and are argued to lessen competition, even innovation, these regulations are also a way to make these corporations, especially those considered too big to fail, transparent, accountable, and responsible. Thank you for listening. Good day, everyone.